Hello, World Economic News, people, on a Thursday, the day of Thor, the god of economics. I don't know what he's god of. Anyway, Doug Short chart to start off with, because it's quite colourful. And this is oil, WTI, March 2011, and it's a rolling top at 1 in crude, in blue indicated there. Crude is now attempting to break the bottom of the rising channel at 2. It's dropping below one of those. This is technical chart analysis, which I don't understand and think is rather bunkum. But then, if people act on the bunkum, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, isn't it, really? It might be bunkum, but if people act on it, then it is what it is. So it does predict something. Anyway, that says oil, it's down at 84 odd bucks a barrel. Which is low. That is quite shocking, but it's WTI, and WTI is not really representative of very much anymore. Increasingly, it's like the Dow Jones. The Dow Jones is not representative of United States corporate health, although everybody goes on about the Dow up, Dow down, and you notice during the crisis the Treasury was always asking the Fed about keeping an eye on the Dow going up and down. Everyone goes on about the Dow, but there's only 30 companies in the Dow, the biggest corporations in the United States, and if one slips and goes bad, then they chuck it out of the Dow and put a new big replacement in. So it's just a representation of the 30 biggest corporations in the United States. It's not really representative of a wide anything, like WTI isn't. Keep going with that, I suppose. The S&P 500 is a much more representative because it represents a more diverse swathe of US corporations, and the Russell is 2000, I think, and that obviously represents more because it goes out to more companies in the United States. And it's the same with WTI. It just represents contracts at Cushing in the Midwest of the United States. And the price is going down, I imagine, because Syncrude from Canada is getting into there now, and they've just got too much. But that is only representative of the price that you can get in Cushing. If you want to arbitrage it, you'd think, well, you arbitrage it to Brent or something like that. But you've got to get it out of Cushing, and you'd need a road tanker to do that. I'll keep going with this. It's quite interesting, I suppose. In Louisiana, coming in from the Gulf, that is sold as Louisiana Light or Sweet Light Louisiana or something like that. That is a different price, and I would think that's up by the Brent price of around 100, because Louisiana tankers also go into Louisiana, not just the pipelines from the Gulf. So there's the hint that the arbitrage can be done in selling the Louisiana at a representative world price, because that's the hint is tankers. You can load it into big seagoing tankers and take it anywhere and get the best price. So, and you can't do that from Cushing. It's kind of landlocked. It's just a small area in Midwest US. Brent is representative of world oil prices because it represents the sort of price you have to pay for a tanker load of oil. In other words, that is the world price for oil, is Brent. You could go with Louisiana, but I mean that's just a smaller market. Brent is the big market now, so it's very much like the Dow and the S&P. Sensible people ignore the Dow and go with the S&P. Now sensible people should increasingly ignore WTI and go with Brent. Brent's up near 100 and WTI there is about 84, and that's the difference, or something like that. Moving on, calculated risk, Bernanke, who could have knowed? and he was up there in Congress or whatever, being grilled about what he knew about things. And Commissioner Thompson says to him, "So, no calamity of this magnitude occurs without there being some early signs that something's going wrong. In this case, this calamity, I mean, what were the signals? And, had we acted on them, might we have averted the disaster?" And Mr. Bernanke answers by saying, well, I don't know. I have to think about that. And I go, anybody who's given this, this crisis any thought could have blurted out about 2 hours of answers, not just sat there and gone, well, I don't know. I have to think about that. I mean, what crap. This chart, number 3, federal outlays, FIOINT, I call it, FIOINT. It's the amount of interest that the United States pays on its treasury bonds that are out. And as you can see, they're paying at the moment, this is numerical, around about 200 billion, which is the same amount as it was 20 years ago. It's of interest. It's of interest, eh? Now, I'm not saying it can't just go bounding up and completely up and out of control at the drop of a hat. But at the moment, it is the same amount that it was 20 years ago. Okay. CNBC NetNet, massive new US oil supply. Peak oil fears overblown. And they start with new drilling techniques may open up vast fields of previously out-of-reach oil in the United States and cut our dependence on foreign oil in half within a decade. That's impressive. And it's all about Bakken and all that sort of stuff, shale oil. Shale oil's bloody hard to get hold of. But they're really trying, eh? The rig count in the Bakken is it's flying. I mean, they're really trying to get lots of oil out. You've got to give them that. And if Americans try, they generally succeed. So they will be getting oil out. But did I have another one on this? Yeah. Oh yeah, this one. I'll do this, seeing I've got it up. This is a quote from later in the article. It's only a few paragraphs, the article. But this was in it, this sentence. The peak oil theory has been around since 1956, and the world hasn't come to a grinding halt yet. And you think when you're still hearing things like that on CNBC, and you go, oh my dear. Anyway, the Bakken, North Dakota, shale, very hard to get hold of, expensive to get hold of, and there'll never be much supply. There'll always be lots of oil down there, but will they ever get lots of supply from there? As so many barrels per day out. And I say, even with the huge rig count, they'll be lucky to get much out. And there's another one. You've got, it's Sweet again, I think. It's North Dakota Sweet. I think that's sold as. And again, it's a long locked price. And until they get the infrastructure in place to get it to the coast, to get it on a tanker so they can arbitrage it against the world oil price, they won't even get a very high price for it. I would think the price for North Dakota at the moment it'll be under the price of the WTI. I wouldn't be surprised if it's quite a lot, under $70 a barrel. And that's just not enough for getting tricky to get at shale oil out. So they're talking about so much in 10 years. There's an awful lot of infrastructure to get in place in that 10 years. And infrastructure costs an awful lot of money and takes an awful lot of time. And I've taken too much time, so I won't do the last ones. I'll end it there. So that was a bit of a different world economic news, but I hope it was useful-ish. And I touched on a few things that, I can't be 100% sure of. So any comments to say where I might have been going wrong are very welcome. But I think most of it should have been about right. Anyway, thanks. Bye.